Hello, all. Welcome to the Legend of Gaming podcast. I'm Matt,
And you got Cliff?
and today we are going to be going over puzzles. But before we get into the puzzles, let's hop into our Cliff Notes. Cliff, what do you have for us?
So, Matt, we only have just one Cliff Note, and then we're going to go over our summary of what we did for our last episode. We had talked about Apex, but I didn't give enough of a summary. So I asked a really good gamer, what pulls her back into Apex? And she said it was the versatility, just the different ways you can play and the different kits that you can have, and the wide range of characters that they've added over the time. She's been playing since season 0, so she definitely knows a lot more than me. And she does mention that there is a learning curve if you want to get into it, but it's still definitely worth playing. And I didn't know what season they were on. I mentioned that it might be 14. It's actually 24. And Apex actually came out February 4th, 2019. So it's already 6 years old.
I mean, you're only off by 14 seasons. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. That's actually crazy.
Yeah,
That's
right?
crazy. So
24
what's that make
seasons.
their seasons? Is it like every 4 to 6 weeks?
I believe so. It would have to be around that range.
I mean, hey, fast-paced game, fast-paced seasons. It actually makes sense. It's, fortnights are like 2-3 months long. So I think a game where you're running trios and your intention is to be more competitive, I actually would like to get more seasonal rewards throughout the year. So I like that.
Getting different changes as well.
Super cool.
So our summary, our last one, we did battle royales, and we definitely went over some new things, some old things. It's still a relatively new topic, so I'm glad that we were able to cover what we could. Even though it's something that's not in our expertise, we definitely had some moments where we were able to go over, see the things that we enjoyed, share the things that we liked, which was a nice bit.
Yeah, I mean, I may not be an expert when it comes to battle royales, but like, I know it's fun when it comes to Fortnite. I just want to jam out and do some twerky dances with my villains.
Absolutely.
I know I want to avoid Warzone, being candid. That's just not in a place where I really feel comfortable that I'll have a good time. And then whenever I look at like Apex or I look at any of these other options, I think that it really just comes down to what your taste is.
Right.
So let's hop into the puzzle podcast. I know that you wanted to start off with some Lego games, so I'll let you take the floor.
I did. The reason I wanted to start off with some Lego games is just because I feel like it doesn't really matter what age you are. You could be, pushing 70. You could be, 6 years old. And it's something that everyone can pretty much enjoy. And as you play the game, each area that you reach, you're actually playing and solving like miniature puzzles.
So give me an example. I've not played any, and the reason I have to interject, I've not played any Lego games. And I know there's Lego Star Wars, Lego Harry Potter. I know there's Lego Indiana Jones. I know there's a plethora.
Yes.
So give me an example. Give me one. Obviously, I want to know which ones are the go-tos. But
for sure, I would say the Star Wars whole like saga. There is a newer version that's out. I'm talking about the older one. Have you seen episode 2 of like Star Wars, or have you seen too much of?
No, I've seen all the episodes.
Okay, so I would say there's a moment where you're in Geonosis, if I'm not mistaken. That should be the name of it, and you're trying to free Anakin, Padme. You actually have to go around and shoot certain pillars, making the pillars fall, having access to certain areas, and then you'll have it where it goes into that cutscene where all the Jedis come flying in. So you actually have to help them get freed by doing like certain little activities. Now,
is this when you play the game? Is it linear? Is it like telling you like, hey, go destroy these pillars, and it leads to that next cutscene, or is it kind of like there's a general storyline, and if you are attentive and you destroy these things, does it lead down a different pathway to a different storyline?
The older games, the one that I'm referencing, is definitely linear. So it's very clear. It's very hintful of this is the next thing you need to do. The newer games have a little bit more of an open world sense, but it's still having it where this is still the main storyline. The fun part about it is that they throw in a lot of like jokes where moments would be very serious. They have like even moments where you go to like the cantina. That's normally like your main menu area. So you go into the cantina, you'll pick like oh, I'm walking through this door. This is episode 1. Let me start playing the episodes. Or
And tell me,
episode
they
2.
have to have the Cantina song playing.
Yeah. Oh, for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I had a little panic.
Absolutely. It's really good. So, but the fun part about it is that when you first play, they normally have you play the character that is a part of that storyline. So if you're walking through Naboo, right? Like, you're going to be playing Qui-Gon Jinn?
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Qui-Gon Jinn,
I don't even
yeah.
know Star Wars, but I do know that name.
You do know
Qui-Gon
that? Okay.
Jinn.
So they will have you playing the proper characters to what that storyline is telling you. And this goes beyond just Star Wars, any of the Lego games.
Well, and that's where I'll pause. I know that there's hundreds of characters.
Right.
So is that how you play through? You play the main character, you play the character that's correct for that storyline, and then once you beat it, you can play through with other characters?
Exactly.
Okay.
That is the next point. So this is where it gives you a little bit extra play if you like learning and doing different puzzles. So you have the normal puzzles that you play during the game. Then afterwards, once you unlock these characters that can do double jumps, or you unlock R2 and R2 can, unlock certain things, then you have access to gain to these different rooms, secret rooms, and there'll be funny jokes in there and stuff like that. This is definitely if you're, let's say, a parent wanting to play a game with your kids, this is something I would definitely recommend. Only because, one, the learning curve is not too big. You don't have to be like, oh, I need to learn this, learn that. It's very simplicated. It's not something like, oh man, I've never played video games. That's fine. That's perfect. This is the game for you. This is where you start. And I think being Legos, majority of kids have either played with Legos, definitely know of Legos. So it's very inviting. And even the way that if things go wrong in the game, like someone loses their life, you kind of like see the Lego pieces fall apart. So it's not as like violent or as, terrifying as playing playing Doom or something like that. So I think it's very inviting.
No, I can appreciate that. And I can appreciate that on two fronts. I think one thing that you highlight, right? Like, it comes back to the cliff note. Fortnite is something that everyone can play.
Right.
I like that when you look at these Lego games, it's two things. You're looking at Legos, which is its own IP, and then you also have whatever IP that they mix with it, whether it's Harry Potter, hey, I like magic. Hey, I really love Indiana Jones. I watched that as a kid.
Right.
Do you know when Legos came out?
The first Lego game?
No, not the first Lego game.
Oh, when
The
Legos
first
came out.
Lego.
Ooh, I'd just be guessing in the dark, to be honest with you. Do you know?
1932.
Oh, wow.
And the reason I bring that up, right? You talk about something that anyone can relate to.
Right.
I think when you look at that, whether it's IP related or not, people are going to be interested in that Lego aspect.
Right.
I will use this as a transitionary period. We talk about video games.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best puzzle games of all time has been around much, much longer than video games have existed. So I would really like you to, enlighten me on chess, if you would.
Yes. So I'll say this. My father taught me chess. I played chess a lot when I was a kid, and I'm going to do my best to give chess the proper respect it needs. Chess is something where I think it started in, if I'm not mistaken, in India a long time ago. I'll get the exact date later on. But this is something that, this was only played by kings. This wasn't a game that like anyone could play back in the day. And this was a test of wits. It was a test of strategy. For anyone that's ever heard of chess, seen of chess, mostly everyone has. Not everyone knows how it operates. Normally you have a first line of just pawns. They normally just take one step. At the very beginning, they can take a double step if you'd like to. And then on the back row, you have multiple pieces that do different functionalities. You also have your queen, you have your king. The moment the king dies, you lose the game. You can lose every single piece. That's completely fine. The moment your king is checkmated, that's when you lose the game. So you really have to work around, how am I going to play defense and how am I going to play offense? And it's one of the most oldest games of teachings. This is something that, my dad still plays. I still play. It's definitely really fun. And it's really a mind game. You have to try to see how far of steps you can play in front of somebody.
Well, one thing that really appealed to me when I look at chess, like, from the outside, you think that it's just simple, kind of like checkers. You play,
Right.
and your objective is to outmaneuver the other person. It's so much deeper, right? Like, you want to think ahead. You kind of want people to fall into traps. You set
Yes.
pawns out to intentionally, create these weaknesses, but really it's to take advantage of people. And I think the aspect that I just can't wrap my head around is you could be good at defensive play and still not be able to win a game.
Yes.
Like,
It's
there's
possible.
actual strategies to be able to pin a king. There's actual strategies to getting to checkmate, and it really
Right.
shows you the levels that come with chess. I love that you start with, you have pawns and you've got these different pieces. One color starts first, right? Like, I don't even know about that.
Yeah. So white starts first. Black starts second, and just off of that alone, there's actually different plays that you can do because the other person started first. So there's levels of strategy to this. To kind of tie into like the ranking system too, the modern version of like the ranking system. If I were to be a very high rank, I believe it goes somewhere around, I think, 2,000, if I'm not mistaken. I'll do a clip note.
Is it called ELO in chess?
Yeah, should be ELO.
Well, I just, we're talking about a video game podcast. The
Or
thing that I would
it's,
relate this to, in video games, you have MMR, right? You've got
Yeah.
matchmaking ratings. So it's just kind of funny how there's a literal national rating for how good you are opposed to
Exactly.
other people. Because I've seen Grandmaster kids,
Yes.
and it's kind of weird. They're like 8 years old, and everyone's like, oh no, this kid's going to destroy me. Or
Yeah.
there's people that like are hustlers. I've seen the people in New York parks that they have sleight of hand.
Oh,
What
yeah.
I say is the advantage, where they're not necessarily, they're good at chess. They're really good at chess, but they're better at scamming you and being able to move pieces around, where if you're not really skilled, you're going to get outmaneuvered because of
Right.
cheating.
Exactly. No, that definitely exists. And I think the back to the ranking piece, if a grandmaster is playing someone that's more of a novice, even if they win, they can wind up deranking. This part is very intriguing just because it makes it where there's no benefit for you to just be playing anybody. You have to play people within the class of your rank. So it makes it very, strategic just to move up. If someone's itching to play you, right, and you're like, your rank's not there yet, come back when your rank is this, then we can talk.
Well, and I think this is a good place to highlight too. There's different rankings.
Yeah.
There's on the board rankings.
Mhm.
There's online rankings. There's rankings wherever it's timed, right? Wherever you
Right.
have time games. So I think that's two where, you might be a master of one, but you can't be a master of all. So there's always an area where you can go, you can practice, you can play against people. It's not going to be at your detriment, right?
Right.
But also, I think that's very cool that it's basically making sure that you're sharp and that you're actually able to withstand that. Because if that was the case, you could get a really high elo and then just play trash.
Right. Exactly.
This is going to make you play the best of the best. And it's kind of either going to, wear you down, push you out, or going to make you better.
Yeah. I think the timepiece to it brings you to another level. The way that let's say you get to a point where, okay, I can think 3 steps ahead. And once you can think, let's say like 4 or 5, you're really good. Thinking 5 steps ahead is immensely good, because you have to remember how many pieces are on the board. And for you to see 5 steps ahead for each piece, or what their pieces are, immensely good. Now puts you under the pressure of you only have 5 minutes to play this game. Now it's a little bit different. I can't think of all the moves as quickly, so there's a chance of me making a mistake. That's when you hit that next level, and that's why I think chess is an amazing game to play. If you ever want to really dive into just playing something that has a high level of skill, it definitely tests your wits, your intelligence. I would definitely look into chess.
I love it. I'm pressured very frequently
Yeah.
by you and a few of my other close friends to get into chess, and I think I'll be candid, I'm not going to do it right now.
Right.
It's because I'm a very obsessive person, but there's so many elements to chess
Yes.
that I can tell I'd get really into it. I know I'd probably be downloading those little elo trackers and like move trackers that are showing me why my move was bad or good, and I'm scared of that. I'm not ready for that time sink. I'm in WoW right now, okay?
Hey,
So I need to be cautious.
Or you'll be like my dad. You'll be watching the grand
Magnus Carlsen wearing his jeans and getting kicked out.
Yeah, every single time he's on.
Hey, I love that. So I do want to springboard off of this. Chess being the oldest game, I really wanted to relate that to Legos. But
right,
when we look at video games, I think that staple puzzle game that everyone thinks of, unfortunately, it's not chess. A lot of people might be chess nowadays because it's pretty popular. But I think it's Tetris.
And that's a very valid statement. It is.
I'll bring just a little personal anecdote in here. I've always been obsessed with video games. Since I was like 5 years old, got my hands on that first N64 game. Anytime I've had free time, I will sit down and game till I either get in trouble or a responsibility comes up. I remember playing my N64 with my dad 24/7. My mom comes in one time and she's like, "You two are obsessed." And I knew that she was obsessed with Tetris back in the day. So I went and got Tetrisphere. Have you heard of Tetrisphere?
A little bit.
All right.
I haven't played it myself.
I'll explain it for the people who don't know. Tetrisphere is Tetris, but a sphere. And basically, you travel around a globe. It's a circular world, and you do Tetris blocks to get to the core of the world, and that's how you win.
That's
you basically
really cool.
break into the crust. I knew she was gonna be obsessed. So the moment she comes in, like, "Hey, Mom, hey, I'll go wash those clothes. Can you take this controller?" Hooked.
You got her.
I'm no idiot. It's an act. The reason I bring this up is like Tetrisphere and Tetris is again just one of those games that it's just, I don't know, you kind of unplug. You don't have to think too much, but it does require thinking.
Right.
We were watching Dr. Mario earlier, and it was like Tetris on crack. It was insane.
The way he was moving, I mean, he was flipping the way he was just flipping it through. Like, oh man, he was playing on a high speed too. Like,
and the big difference that you're getting from Tetris to a Dr. Mario is Dr. Mario's two colors in one block.
Right.
They're all the same shape, and it's more of a speed game. You have to have 4 in a row. Mm-hmm. Same as any other of these block games. Bejeweled.
Yes, Bejeweled.
Right?
Yes.
Any of these games, you got to have 4 in a row. Candy Crush, you got to have it. But each has their own little shtick. And, Tetris, it's for those OCD people like me. It's so satisfying. I don't even want to just get it in a row. I want to put it together perfect so I can knock out like 70 in one chunk. And I want them to drop. I want to knock out another 30. And then maybe like another 5, right?
Yeah, right.
I know that sounds so crazy, but some puzzle games, it does something to that little spot in my brain. Right?
Such a satisfaction,
What game hooked you like Tetris? Were you into Tetris? Was that a game that you just skipped by?
I was into Tetris. I think, me personally, I know Bejeweled is a more simplified version, but that was mine for sure. Getting just that 3-click, and it wasn't becoming like Candy Crush. I wasn't right at that era, but Bejeweled was definitely mine. Getting 5 in a row was just absolutely amazing. It was such a simple game. It wasn't too much to it. But I definitely remember playing that the most.
Where were you playing that? Were you playing that on your phone?
I was playing that on my computer, actually, to be honest with you. The first time I was playing it.
I was just looking it up. Bejeweled came out in 2000.
Yeah, there we go.
So, I look at Tetris. I'm 34. There's certain times where I look at, like, Tetris had a few years to really gain popularity by the time I was, like, born.
Right.
My parents, were very young parents, so I think that's where a lot of that attraction for me comes.
Okay.
Even, like, to be candid, I don't think it counts as a puzzle game, but Pac-Man was one of those things that I was just obsessed with at the time. It was easy to get your hands on, right? It was just like Tetris, Pac-Man, those were those easily digestible. You could play. If you failed, you'd play level 1 over and over until you got better.
Yeah.
But also, if you're cranking out, level 20, it's kind of impressive to watch someone
sweating while you're doing it.
It's kind of wild that you're watching a game that's so simple. You're flipping blocks or you're eating little dots.
Yeah.
When you're getting to those higher levels, dude, it's cooking.
It's
cooking. There's like a little algorithm there. People memorizing where the ghosts go.
Right.
Tetris, I feel like Tetris has to have something similar. We'll check into that. But
I would
I'm
think
curious if there's an algorithm that someone figured out for Tetris.
We can check that as a cliff note. I gotcha.
Okay. Well, hold on. I'm not letting this slide before I throw in my honorable mention for my Tetris game. Now, did you ever play Mortal Kombat Deception?
Ooh, no, I did.
So there's 2 games came out at the same time. It's Mortal Kombat Deception and Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. Now, Deadly Alliance is great, cool fighting game. Woohoo. Deception had a Tetris minigame. I would go out to my friend's farm. Shout out Travi. I'd go out to Travi's farm, and we would play. Basically, it was 2 Tetris screens. You picked a character. All right. And the whole reason for the character, you'll understand in a minute. So I'd pick my Sub-Zero. He'd pick, like, I don't even know, Cyborg. And what's crazy is you would play Tetris. And as you knocked out blocks, it would put more blocks on the other person's side. Or you had specials, like Sub-Zero. You'd freeze their blocks so they couldn't break the blocks, right? So you could strategically wait. Okay. When you would win, it would do a fatality to their person.
Oh, wow.
So literally it was Tetris. It was just Tetris.
Yeah.
But the advantage was, a lot of people aren't good at fighting games and can't do the button combos for a fatality.
I am one of them.
That was why we played it. I couldn't do the fatalities, but I could play Tetris. The only negative, I think out of all the times we played, I only won twice. Out of like hundreds, and I mean hundreds of plays, I won less than one handful of times.
He was cleaning house.
Bro, he owned the game. He was practicing. And waiting, he was waiting for me to come over to destroy me. But that is my honorable mention. I did like Tetris, but again, being like four by the time like Tetris 5 was out, I can't act like that was what I was on a ton. But that Deception game, that Tetris mini game, I sincerely played hundreds of hours. Like I played at least 100. There was at least a 3-month period where each weekend was dedicated to getting destroyed by Travi.
That is awesome, and I think. From bringing that up, you actually triggered me to think about something that we didn't even come to mind to. Did you ever play Battleship? Man, there's
Battleship. I played one time with my dad.
Okay.
I don't put the pieces in the board.
Oh, you do?
No, I will never call the same piece twice. Like I don't know what it is about my memory. Like that's one thing I'm really good with numbers. My dad played with me and I didn't put any pieces in.
Okay.
And didn't call any of the pieces twice and just like beat him. My dad's like, nah, we're not playing this. This is stupid. But yes, I do like Battleship.
Right. I think Battleship kind of ties into just having like, it's a really fun puzzle game just for the idea of like, okay, where am I placing my things? Am I placing things too close to each other? I got a new perspective. I was playing against my brother one day and he was like, I'm gonna give you a nice little chance here. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I'm gonna let you do 2 shots for my very one. So I'll shoot once, you shoot twice, and I'll still win. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm gonna sink all your ships. I was confident. I was like, man, I'm gonna rub this in his face. And I start playing and I'm not hitting anything. Nothing at all, right? It gets to the point, I'm to my last ship. He's been sinking me. I still haven't sunk one ship. And after he gets my last ship, I lean over and I look. He put all his ships in one corner.
I was actually going to say, did he stack them?
No, he didn't stack them, but he put them all like in a line, like right on the corners. And it was just one of those, like, I was really young at the time, and it gave me a different perspective of like, you could play in a different way and no one's going to expect it. So it was a really cool thing to learn from like playing a puzzle.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of Minesweeper.
Oh yeah, Minesweeper. That's a really good one too.
That's like the OG, like you didn't own a video game, but you had access to a computer.
Oh yeah.
And you kind of didn't even know what the 1s or the 2s or the 3s meant at first. I know what it means now, but you're just smashing buttons hoping to win.
Yeah. That's actually a really good one too.
That's exactly what it reminded me of. If you're taking out the edges, that's what I'd try for. Try to get the edges so I could clear some out.
Man, Minesweeper, that one took me back.
I know. Now, I don't want us to get stuck on just old school puzzle games.
Right.
The games of the rich and wealthy with chess. I do want to get into some world puzzle games too. I want to start with the first game that took me by surprise.
Okay.
Portal 2.
Portal 2.
Now, I didn't get to play Portal 1, so if you have any comments on Portal 1, I would love to hear it.
I personally don't, but I was definitely on Portal 2, and Portal 2 is actually considered one of the best like modern puzzle games.
Give me your synopsis.
How
would you describe
man,
Portal 2 to someone like me if I had not played it?
It was like a very rich story. It has comedy to it too, where you don't expect it. It's really funny. I mean, there's a moment where, to kind of give some context to for whoever hasn't played it, you're stuck potentially like in this laboratory and you're trying to get out, and you have this portal gun. There is like this AI that's controlling the facility, and that's what I'll leave it at. As you're trying to work your way through the facility using the portals, you're trying to get out.
To understand the portal gun, imagine it shooting Portal A and Portal B. Portal A exits at Portal B. And you have two different triggers. So say I jump in, and a good example, I jump off a cliff. And I jump off the cliff, no pun intended, and fly through Portal A with 20 feet of drop. I'm going to come out Portal B with the speed of a 20-foot drop. Now, if Portal B is on the ground, that's going to shoot me into the air.
Right.
When I'm in the air, if I shoot under me and do Portal A again and shoot Portal B against the wall, I'm going to fall, and I'm going to fall through another entrance and come out at another hole. So there's a lot of times where it starts off really simple.
Right.
You shoot Portal A, you shoot Portal B on the other side of a wall, maybe through a hole so you can get to another platform. It starts to get intricate where you need to jump off of a ledge. You need to time it right. You need to know what's on the other side. You need to be able to shoot another portal underneath of you while maybe transporting yourself to another cliff or activating a button. And it's just so satisfying because it's simple.
Right.
I'm telling you right now, you will get stuck.
Yes, you will. And to tie into everything you said, it's using puzzles and physics as one. So you're using like your knowledge of physics. You're using your knowledge of how does gravity just react like when I do this.
Don't
like how
put
much
words
speed...
in my mouth, Cliff. I know nothing about physics. I just smash buttons till it works. I'm like,
Well, you were smashing the right buttons. You got it.
You know, at some point. No, I'm just sorry to cut you off, but yeah, no, I think physics, was that the first game that you played that had those physics dynamics built into the game, that it was actually part of it?
I believe so, yeah, because like just from that alone, it just, again, it gives you a different way of thinking, and I think that's gonna be a piece that we keep coming back to when it comes to talking about puzzle games, because it's supposed to, you know, bend your mind a little bit, give you a different perspective of like, oh, let me think about solving it this way, or oh, I never thought like this would be the element that I needed to get past this. And I think that game does such a good job, and it's even funny along the way, so it keeps you entertained. To kind of give an idea or a small like tidbit, there was a moment where as you play, there's certain like turrets that could potentially harm you, hurt you. There's a moment where you're going through an elevator, you're advancing, and you come into a room and there's nothing but turrets around you. And you're like, oh man, they're all gonna fire on me. But they start playing a symphony of songs. They just start jamming out in front of you. And then all of a sudden the elevator closes, you go up to the next level. It's just like, it's small stuff like that. So it definitely keeps you entertained. It definitely has a fun story. And I think just the way that it plays with physics, the laws of gravity, it's a really good game to definitely play.
I mean, I can really appreciate that because some series, Portal I think is a great example, really fits a niche. It has these elements that it does perfectly. I think there are other IPs that have that under all of it. Okay. And by that I mean intellectual property for anyone. I'm going to say IP a lot throughout the podcast, not just today. So when we talk about an intellectual property, Zelda.
Right.
Zelda has so many different types of games. All of them incorporate puzzles. All of the puzzles can be different. And a great example is, we're talking about Portal 2.
Right.
We're talking about physics and puzzles where you have to be kind of witty. That's what attracted me to Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild had some of the best in-game physics that I didn't expect. You know, I expected you to be able to jump, fly, do all these things, but I didn't really think that they would add elements in the game like the shrines that you need to, kind of to your point, have like an idea of how physics work, and you need to kind of have a grasp of how to solve a puzzle in order, because you could really get stuck. Did you ever play?
I didn't play it. How often did you get stuck?
Okay, so you know, we're a little bit seasoned.
Yeah,
we're a little bit seasoned.
Sure.
I didn't get hard stuck.
Okay.
Until I was doing a shrine. And I can't remember the exact name. I'm pretty certain it was the Magda Shrine, and there's a second name. Anyone who played Breath of the Wild, I'll repeat, anyone who played Breath of the Wild knows which shrine I'm talking about. Long story short, when you go into a shrine, there's different sets of puzzles.
Right.
Maybe you need to activate buttons, they're hidden, you need to fly behind pillars to get to them. The really difficult ones would use the gyroscope from the Switch.
Okay.
It would drop a ball, and you'd have to use the gyroscope to move a platform. What made the Magda one hard was not only did you have to get 2 balls through a maze,
all right,
you had to jump the ball from the platform to another platform to activate it. Now, for the faint of heart, they would sit there and they would just try and try and try. Now, I'm a cheater. I'm not going to look it up, but I'm going to try to break it. I realized immediately the gyroscope, if I flipped over the whole Switch, it would flip over the whole puzzle. And on the back of that puzzle, instead of having all of the little grates for those balls to go through, it was just flat. So I literally just rolled the ball and shot it up onto the platform really quickly. But the first 30 minutes of me not figuring it out were super frustrating.
That's hilarious, though. But, you know, in that moment, even though you took it in that way, you had the ability to do it in that way. And that was just your out of the box thinking, to be honest with you.
That's why this game is phenomenal. For the people that follow the rules, you're very linear, you're looking for the actual solution that was intended, 100% it's there. Everything has a solve. What is so good about the game is if you can manipulate the physics, not the graphics, the physics, there's things that you can do. A great example is in Breath of the Wild, you can do a front flip and jump on your shield. And you can surf. You can surf down.
What?
Yeah, you can snowboard down a mountain. You can snowboard down a rocky mountain. The stuff. If you're really good, you can take Link's classic bomb.
Okay.
You can jump and you can throw it, and you can jump onto your shield and you can explode it really quickly, and it shoots you like 60 feet in the air and you can fly away. Now, that's not intended. It's not supposed to work that way. But again, whenever you understand the physics, you start to learn where the barriers of what the game can do are. You learn ways that you can manipulate it. And that was one that I used so much to get into big fights. I just shoot myself up 60 feet and shoot them in the head with explosive arrows.
That is really cool. And for that to be having like different puzzles in that game, but they give you tools that just to whatever you can think of, you can elevate how you solve this.
Also, it elevates the actual role-playing element. Because there's some that are like, hey, you have to solve these puzzles to get... The shrines specifically were to get health and stamina.
Okay.
In Breath of the Wild, there are visual cues. You're in the desert. You can see a little old civilization. You see some trees, a little oasis. You know that this town used to have a secret civilization that protected it. If you go out there and you're following these cues, you can find a breakable wall that has the highest level shields and jewels in it and weapons. But that's not relevant to the story. It really is not. Like, you don't need those things to go beat Ganondorf. But I will tell you, does it feel good when you're out there and you're like, this looks like an old town. Hey, they were talking about the Gerudo warriors. And then you find their old cache of weapons.
Yeah.
Dude, this game doesn't have dialogue where it's talking to you. It's like, and it's got words on the bottom. That makes me feel like I am the warrior that's finding the weapons I need to conquer the land. And I think that those, even though, yes, we're talking about puzzles, these puzzles and these little things that are put into the game add to the element of the character that I not only feel powerful, I feel smart. I feel like whenever I'm going to go fight Ganondorf, not just smashing a button, I've over-leveled myself. No, I'm a dexterous warrior that, you understand, you understand the mechanics of the game, right? The physics.
Yeah.
But there's little things built in, right? Those little parries add to the game.
Right.
But also, you know what? I really like the puzzles out in the middle of the desert that are giving me weapons. So okay, that fight is a little bit easier.
Yeah,
the fight is a little bit easier.
I got a little edge on it.
I do want to step off from Breath of the Wild, and the reason I really brought up Legend of Zelda is, have you played any of the older games like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, anything like that?
I've played Twilight, and I think I told you a little bit about what happened with me.
Tell us. I want to hear about
this.
it.
I mean, this is to kind of give you a perspective of just like some things might be a simple puzzle, and you're just overthinking it. And this happens to me all the time. I definitely overthink a lot of puzzles. I'm like, okay, I have to be Da Vinci here. Let's try to make this happen. This in Twilight, there's a moment where there's like, in order for you to get out into the open world, there's this cave. There's like a bunch of webbing right in front of it. You're like, okay, like you just need to get past this. I, for the longest, didn't know how to get past it. I tried swinging at it, swiping a bunch of stuff, trying to use a bunch of different items, and I tried this for, I would say, hopping on, playing for a few hours, and then getting off. It got to the point where I had to put the game down. I was like, this game isn't for me. This whole game isn't for me. I don't want to play Zelda. I want to talk about how good it is. And that was my first impression of it, because Twilight was one of the first ones I played. It came to a point where I finally got back on, tried it again, and I realized that I needed to just wave a flame torch to burn these cobwebs. Even though I was swinging a full, I think wooden sword, if I'm not mistaken, I just needed to swing like a flaming torch to burn the cobwebs. And it's something so simple. And I wasn't thinking of it like, oh, I need to use like elemental things to destroy this. And it blockaded me from playing this whole game just because I was overthinking it. But once I overcame it, I was like, man, like I'm overthinking this. Clearly there's going to be puzzles that are really easy, and there might be stuff that is really hard, because I've always heard of how hard Zelda's like puzzles are. So I immediately was like, oh man, this has to be like something crazy.
They're hard for the reason you just said.
Yeah.
You really eloquently explained why it's hard. It's hard because you can't discern if this puzzle you're going to come up to is going to be a complex puzzle or a simple puzzle. And if you come in and you're thinking it's complex and you're thinking all these levels that it's a simple puzzle, you've already lost a little bit, right? You're already like going to lose time because you're overthinking it.
Right.
I think that's why when you play games with kids, or when you were a kid and you played with your parent, I think that there's advantages to that because you think so differently, right?
Oh, for sure.
Ocarina of Time has the water temple. Dude.
Tell me about it, because
like,
I know you know.
I'm not going to ruin it for anyone because this is one you need to play. I will say, pre-internet days, when I had to go to Fairview Heights Mall, that was an hour away from my house, to go into the game little store to find the actual magazines, that was not something I could solve. Like, the water temple was the stopping point of me playing Ocarina of Time. I could not solve it.
Really?
It wasn't that it's super complex, it's logical. And it's logical in the sense of you play some games and you get this ability right before. BioShock's a great example. Hey, here's a flame ability. What do you think you're going to use in the next fight? A flame ability.
Yeah, immediately.
Ocarina of Time is really good about having you learn things as you go. You learn the ability to use a grapple. You get shoes that make you walk underwater.
Love the grapple hook.
Right? You get different songs from your actual ocarina. You don't just use them once. You don't get it and you use it then, and well, okay, well, let's go on. No, and that's where people get messed up, because when you get to the water temple, you have to add a couple elements together to actually solve it.
Right.
The beauty. There's a part where you can kind of get lost, and it makes you think that you're making progress, but you're really not, because you need to use these elements. So you end up wasting hours thinking you're doing something wrong in the navigation, but it's not the navigation, it's the tools.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think that's where Legend of Zelda's been one of these monoliths of gaming for so long, because there's some games that don't land for me. I went and played the one that they remade. Oh my goodness. Lost in Time. Oh, A Link to the Past. It was called A Link to the Past. And I watched my wife play it, and it sucked.
Oh, man.
It just was not a game for me.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a game for me. And to watch it, she loved it. The ending of it, was so facetious. It was such a goofy goober SpongeBob ending, and to me,
What was the ending?
I'm not gonna ruin it.
Oh,
We can
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about it
you're right, you're
offline.
right. Oh,
This is
you're
something
right,
I don't
you're
want to
right.
ruin for anyone listening, but I would tell you, it just goes to show you that sometimes you don't know what to expect at the end of something.
Right.
Great journey. Those puzzles, that game itself is one big puzzle. There's no
Okay.
fighting elements where you have to be good at, dodging, parrying. You need to bring the right equipment. No, it's really about solving puzzles, which, if that's what you're looking for, you're going to love it. I like elements of puzzles being added into another type of game.
Yes. It's nice to see it incorporated where it's almost like each piece that you get, this is going to progress you through. I've been playing God of War recently, and there's plenty of moments where it's like, okay, you can't surpass this until you get this item. You can't get to this area until you get this. And I've been running across that a lot. I was playing the very first one, and there's like this desert where
First level or first
God of War.
Okay.
And there's this level where, this area where it's a desert, and it's just like a stormy desert. It's like lost souls are there and stuff like that. You can't get to there until you defeat something else. So it took a while. I got to it. Once I was able to pass through it, all of a sudden I was in this desert, and they're like, you need to find these 3 sirens floating around, and you need to like attack them. Then you'll gain access to the next area. But you're just walking around in this desert that's just wind blowing everywhere. You can't see anything. You have to listen for them, right? So in that context, it's something of a small puzzle. It's not something too elaborate. You're just making sure your volume's up, making sure you can hear them, and you're walking aimlessly around, so you'll eventually find them. But it does have that small element of like, you need to progress by gaining these small items, and there's a few ways you could do it.
I have a God of War comment, and then I've got something to talk about
Okay.
that I love that you made me think of. So God of War, I do appreciate that any area you go to God of War, walk to every corner.
Yeah.
Look in every area. There is going to be something there. There is going to be an item. There will be an achievement. There will be a purpose for you walking out there.
Right.
So I can appreciate that. But the part that I really love of this is you're like, hey, you get to this place you can't see, and you have to use sound to solve this puzzle.
Right.
Myst is one of the oldest puzzle games.
Okay.
It was
Tell me about it.
It was in the early 90s. You'd play it on PC. It was a point to navigate game. Like you'd point, you'd move forward.
Okay.
Or point, you'd click. The thing that's interesting about Myst is it's a mystery game. It's a puzzle game. You have to solve all these elements on an island. It had one of the hardest puzzles for people to solve pre-internet days because you had to listen. Exactly to the point of you talking about these sirens. You would navigate this island.
Okay.
And in the island, it's just you. And there's like a watchtower, like a tower to look into the stars. And there's a library. And there's a little like a boat docking area. And there's a house with a bunch of books. And as you click into these areas, you can read the books. And you can click and read through things. There's a point where you can solve a few mysteries that get you into a basement. And you find a telephone. And that puzzle in itself is you have to figure out the telephone. But once you figure out the telephone part, it unlocks the door. And inside of the door, the only way that you can navigate the maze properly is by sound.
Wow.
And it's
Oh,
just
that's really
crazy
cool.
because it's such an old game, but it just goes to show you the elements that bring you into a puzzle are elements of surprise.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with different senses, in my opinion.
Mhm.
I think things that throw me off is you start a puzzle that I'm reading, and it's like a brain bender, right? You're like reading it, and you're trying to solve this riddle, but then maybe part of that riddle is understanding that you have to listen for these sounds, or you have to look for these physical cues in the world. Dude, that is quality story writing. And a lot of these games have it. Myst is, we're in 2025. That's almost 30 years old. I think whenever we talk about God of War,
Yeah.
and I'm going to bring back up Legend of Zelda again. I think when we look at Breath of the Wild and we look at how it changed to Tears of the Kingdom, and they made iterations of change. I think that we've just gotten to a point where people understand how to really engage the gamers, but in a way that's rewarding. Some games are just egregiously hard to be egregiously hard. A lot of these puzzles, specifically like you're saying in God of War, how long did it take you to figure out that you had to listen? For real, like give me a time frame. Was this like something you looked up, or was it something you figured out by cues?
It was one of those like and to kind of tie into how you mentioned like it's really about listening, it's mentioned at the very beginning that you have to hear them out. It's mentioned, but you don't hear their voice at the very beginning, so you don't know what you're listening for because there's a lot of sounds and there's enemies attacking you. So at the very beginning of it, I was like, oh, okay, I'm on my not really trying to like focus on the storyline, but get all my collectibles, stuff like that. So I really like heard the piece that she said. I was like, okay, clearly there's something I have to find out here in the desert. I started getting all my collectibles, got everything, and all of a sudden I was like, okay, what do I do out here?
Now that I've murdered everything, why am I not getting to the next level?
Why am I standing in the desert and just wind blowing away this? So it got to a point where like all of a sudden I heard something singing just passing by, and I was actually on my like toes a little bit. I was like, what was that? What was that? And I wind up seeing like one of the sirens, and then the moment I attacked it and it was ended, you saw like a cut scene of it helping unlock a door, and I needed to get 2 more. Then it was like, okay, I know what the rest of my mission is for the main story. I need to search the rest of this why, and it's actually I think one of the biggest areas that they created on God of War 1 was that area. It was like immense. Like I love to use that word. It takes I want to say like probably about a good 2 minutes to cross, and if you think about the older games, that's actually a pretty wide area.
Yeah, especially for like a miniature little area that you're going to play through and go to another area.
Yeah,
like a zone, right?
Yeah, exactly. And since you can't see through it, you can actually get lost in there for a little while.
I really love that. I really haven't got to dive too much into the God of War series, so like knowing that there's nice puzzles like dropped in there, right? You don't have to just go to the Uncharted's. You don't just have to go to these. You have other linear types of games that kind of hit on those same elements, so I can appreciate that.
Yeah, there was one puzzle that kind of threw me for a spin. It was you had to stack certain pillars, and you're trying to save someone from falling. I didn't know how to stack the pillars starting off because it doesn't really lead you into explaining how to do it. So it took a few tries, and the moment I got it, I was like, okay. Luckily, the game knows that puzzle is there. So the person hanging there, they would hang there indefinitely at the moment. It's not like, you don't want them, of course, you don't want anyone sitting there hanging from a rope, like asking you for help. And they keep screaming your name too, like, help, please, please, please. Help. You feel the anxiety. You're like, man, I'm trying to help you, but I don't know how to get up there. But the moment that you set it up where you can get onto like the wall and you can start progressing up to their area, then the timer ticks where it's like, okay, I need to try to go save them. So that's just a small piece of how like a puzzle can be graceful in a sense of like, okay, we know that it's going to take you a little while to figure this out, but we don't want to stress you out to the point where you're like, oh man, I can't work this out.
I'm giving up this game.
Exactly. One other game I just wanted to mention for a little moment was actually Assassin's Creed 3.
Oh, surprise.
Here we go.
Cliff was like, he had his hands, he was rubbing them, and he was like,
back and forth.
Assassin's Creed, I'm going to get it in here.
I was like, it's going to happen.
So, Assassin's Creed, which one? You said Assassin's Creed 3?
3, the one that I recommend for you. Definitely want you to try that one. There is a moment, because you're in Boston, and you can go to New York as well. You can go underground, and there's a bunch of puzzles that you have to need to solve to get through like the tunnels, the early stages of what the tunnels were. And the puzzles were actually pretty elaborate. Like there's moments where you have to kind of do a lot of visual searching of like what you're reading and stuff like that. And then you would be turning like certain light fixtures to... Go ahead.
Like in the sense of like when you say reading, like in the sense of the quest isn't giving you a actual marker, you need to read what it's telling you, and because I've not played them, right? So
right.
Like, how are you how is the quest disseminated to you? Are you given the beginning part of a riddle and you have to solve it?
So imagine this. Let's say you're going through the tunnel. You finally reach a door. It's normally like a door setup, and it would have 4 circles on it. Each of the circles are showing either like a different symbol.
Okay.
And you would have a piece of like literature that's there, and it would explain a story. Let's say the story is saying the king rose to the top as he overcame X, Y, and Z. He always had his favorite feline, his cat, to the left beside him. Then you see how it kind of ties in. So you have moments where you have to read all of this literature, and you're like, okay, like they mentioned this kind of symbol in this phrase. They mentioned it in this location. It made it where it was very interesting. It wasn't too difficult, but it was definitely challenging because you had to sit there and make sure, okay, I'm picking up on this cue. I'm picking up on that cue.
I can definitely fathom that. I think the first game I ran into where it was dynamic like that was Skyrim, actually.
Okay, tell me about it.
Skyrim, you'd find a golden dragon claw, and you're like, hey, that's really badass. I'm going to sell that. And then you get to a door that you can't open.
Okay.
And you're like, oh shit, that kind of looks like a dragon claw on the door. And then you can go inside and you realize, like, hey, in this cavern I found this claw with a ruby in it. This is called the Ruby Sapphire Dragon Cavern, right? Like, and that's a very stupidly put example, but you get the principle. Like,
right,
it would have a verbiage cue that you'd be like, I have loot that has that same name.
Okay.
I got the Dusk Grotto Claw. Like, you know, like, okay, let me put 2 and 2 together. But that's where I remember the first time I got to a door, I'm like, I can't. I've looked at, and you look at the map, you've seen everything in the whole room, but really it's a matter of just deduction. Hey, looks like a claw. I remember getting this claw. But again, coming back to other games we talked about, it's that aha moment.
Yeah.
It's so satisfying. You're like, oh. I think it's a little more satisfying when you're not as frustrated. It hasn't been hours or days, right? But sometimes that is necessary. It is necessary for you to have to simplify and like pull out that torch and hit the freaking web.
I'll always remember that one. I will always.
In Skyrim, hey, the dragon claw, when you're in the place, you see the little dragon claw, go through, pull them out. And honestly, what's funny is most of the time you have like 6 or 7. If you're like us, you're looting everything. But again, that's the fun of it. You then at this point you start finding claws. You're like, hold on, now I want to find this door. It's like the flip side of a puzzle.
Yeah.
You find the key, and you're like, well, now I need to find the safe that this unlocks, right?
It gives you that touch of a hint where you're like, okay, there's more leading on to this.
Well, and puzzles come in so many different ways. We've talked about literal, physical color shapes, like you're putting them together like a puzzle.
Right.
We're more RPG players. I want a story puzzle. I want to put pieces of a puzzle together. I'm going to step away from the games we've been talking about, and I'll bring up one that I it's close to my heart. I know you've played it too, but the ending sucked.
Oh yeah.
You already know where I'm going.
Oh my goodness.
Tales Noir.
Tales Noir. I'll say this. I recommended Tales Noir to Matt probably right like while I was midway through the game. And I'll tell you this, that game has so much potential. I did a deep dive because I just wanted to know why the ending went the way that it did, and the person that was producing the game was going through a lot of tough difficulties in their life, and it started to reflect in the game, and that's why they went with the ending that they chose, which is, I can find a bit of grace in that, knowing that, at least they went through and finished the game. I do see what it could have been, but I definitely loved the game for right before the ending. I definitely loved everything they were doing with the game.
To give you a rundown of anyone who hasn't played, it's an act-based game, so it's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4.
Yep, correct.
Act 1 and 2 are phenomenal.
Absolutely phenomenal.
And that's really it. Like, Act 1 and 2 are phenomenal. Act 3, it starts to get away. Act 4 is just kind of wild. But the reason I highlight this game is it is a raccoon-based detective game in a world with a bunch of animals. And your decisions have impact. Your decisions have impact on the game, but it is still a puzzle. There are right things to ask. There are correct ways to go about treating people. And the puzzle is being the best person you can be.
Yeah.
But also you're kind of navigating a world that is a little obscure because it's all animals and it's ran by apes.
Yeah, but picture Zootopia, but in a very like grim, like little grimy like
Zootopia
version.
3, the world's come to a sad place.
Yes, that's probably the best way to put it. And to kind of tie into what Matt's saying, you know, every of the like alpha like animals, the predators, they're on top, right? And then everyone else is kind of, as you can see, either mid-class, low class, and you're working through as this raccoon detective. You know, you don't have much, have a setup of your house that you're not really fancying and stuff like that, but you get this case, you get this small case. You normally take small cases, and this case is bigger than you've ever imagined. It's out of your league by tenfold for sure, but you try to pursue it, and that's the storyline of it. And I recommend, if you do want to play it, definitely go ahead, but I do just warn you, when it comes to the ending, it's not what you're going to expect,
in a good way or a bad way, because honestly, maybe you'll like it. If you do,
that's true,
let us know. We might think you're crazy, but I'd like to hear it. And I do want to preface, you know, the one thing that does make this a puzzle game is there's elements that if you pick up every item along the game, there are things that you can do with those items that give you different endings.
Yes.
I think what Cliff is really trying to highlight is those endings may not be worth the extra work, but the journey itself, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that platinum for that trophy.
Yeah.
But more importantly, I really did enjoy finding that there were different actions you could do if you had different items on you.
Yeah, I think the last piece that I'd probably mention on there is the conversations you're having is the puzzle. You know, if you're mentioning to this person that you're investigating, like, where does that lead? You gave them the true information coming from you. Will that bite you in the butt? Will that come back towards you? Should you be completely honest with the people that you're checking in? Because you can't trust anybody. So you have that type of element to it, and that's part of the puzzle. It's like, okay, where do I play this information? Because this might be the person I can trust, or this is not the person I can trust. I think that's probably one of the pieces to it. But besides that, definitely a very interesting game. It's a really good puzzle game.
Do you have any easygoing puzzle games that you would suggest that are, you know, off the beaten path that someone may not have enjoyed yet?
I wouldn't say, I mean, easy depending on how you play it. You definitely have some levels to it, and I think this is a really fun game. I think this might actually tie into it. We haven't talked about Guitar Hero, and I know thinking about it, it's like, okay, this is, you know, you're playing music, right? You're not playing music of your own. You're not creating music. You're playing music that's already been there. And as you're going through, you're trying to hit all the notes. That is a puzzle, right? A lot of people don't, you know, have instruments that they play, have guitars that they play. So when you pick it up and you're playing, let's say like on the Wii or a different console, and you're trying to hit these notes for the first time with an instrument in your hand, that right there is a certain level of difficulty. I find it really fun. I find it can also, you can play it on easy. So if you were like, hey, like I want to try something that's very involved, I can play with other people, this would definitely be one that I would dive into.
No, I actually, I could really see where that would fit in, right? I think it's a button sequencing type of puzzle. It's kind of like DDR.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a correlation between being good at Guitar Hero and being good at a guitar, or being good at dancing and being good at DDR.
Right.
But you could be really skilled at being good with metronomes. You could be good with timing. You could be good with hand-eye coordination, and it is something that you could really master. You see people doing Through Fire and Flames on like 300% and getting all the notes, and it's like, is that really a guitar game at that point, or are you really like, you know, perfecting a puzzle? And I can agree with that.
Yeah,
I can agree with that.
Absolutely.
Okay, which is the best Guitar Hero? Real question. There's like 19 of them.
Ooh.
Or what was the first one you played? That one's easier because that's gonna be a literal answer.
Ooh, I'll say this. It's one that's on the Wii. It's definitely been a long time. I would have to go find it. Um, Man, that's probably gonna be a cliff note. I'll definitely come back and tell you the exact
Mine was
one.
Guitar Hero 2.
Guitar Hero 2.
Yeah, I remember I got it on the Xbox 360, and I was like, okay, let me pick this up. And the first song I think was that song from Coyote Ugly. I don't remember. I don't know. I can't remember the song right now.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact it was a Coyote Ugly.
Okay.
That'll be my cliff note.
Did you ever go to Disney Quest?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you ever play Guitar Hero there?
Yeah.
I love playing Guitar Hero there. That was a spot.
Whenever I went to Disney Quest, and anyone who doesn't know what Disney Quest was, it was like a 4-5 story arcade with some known arcade games and then some just outlandish wild games. But I do remember Disney Quest, and I'm sad that it's gone.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely.
R.I.P. to that, and R.I.P. to Tales Noir.
Oh man, they made a prequel, and I can't bring myself to play it. But maybe one day we'll see.
Maybe honestly, we have so much time. We've got so much time and so many games to play.
We do.
Now, I know that we've talked about a lot of different types of puzzle games today. We've talked about Lego games. We've talked about Tetris, Tetrisphere, chess.
Right.
We've gone over all the different iterations of Tetris, Mortal Kombat Deception, Dr. Mario. I think where we really deviated, right? We showed some different games. We're talking about Portal 2, and you have physics, and you have all these elements added in. Outside of logical puzzles, outside of puzzles that involve physics, outside of puzzles that involve riddles, right? Like, honestly, I'd even bring in Sea of Thieves. There's a lot of puzzles involved in that game.
And Sea of Thieves? Okay.
Yeah, you get a riddle, and you have to solve the riddle, and you have to look at a map, and you have to be a topographer, and you need to find the island that's shaped like a shoe or whatever, you know?
Okay.
I think that's cool. I don't necessarily think those are games that attract everybody.
Right.
I think the games that do attract everybody are puzzles that are kind of hidden under the guise of something else.
Yeah. And
one game that I really, truly enjoyed, and I'm so sad because I didn't buy it when it was on discount. I will get it when it comes out on discount again, is Stray.
Oh, it's the cat? Tell me about it, because I've looked at it, I've seen it all the time, and I've never gotten around to taking a dive into it.
Summation, without giving anything away, you are in a futuristic world.
Okay.
Robots are in place of humans.
Okay.
And you're a cat that's just navigating that world, and you get to discover what you want to discover for yourself, right? You do the little basics, you go around town, check some stuff out, but there's definitely a lot of puzzles. There's a lot of elements that if you're not paying attention or interacting with everything, actually picking up little notes around town,
okay,
there's a lot of elements that you'll miss out on. And I will tell you, I missed out on them. And then I didn't buy the game, and whenever I saw clips later, I realized that I really didn't play that game to the fullest. Now, I enjoyed the functionality, how it controls, but I think what's really most important is, like, I played it like a cat, and that's actually kind of crazy. I really got into, like, I was avoiding people, and I wasn't really trying to interact with the bad guys, air quotes.
Yeah.
That game's phenomenal for a game that there's going to be elements of puzzles put into it, but none of them are going to feel like it. You just feel like you're just trying to survive.
I actually thought of one more for like a simple one. It's a Nom Nom Galaxy. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one.
Nom Nom Galaxy, like nom 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 nom.
Exactly like that, yes. So I know you love soup. I love soup. It's a game where you pretty much just make soup. You're making it for robots. You go to different planets. You harvest the things that are on that planet. And you have to defend yourself from the other companies. They'll actually show up and try to blow up your base. That's pretty much it. But
Campbell's at it again.
Yeah, Campbell's coming for you. He doesn't like that you stole the recipe. But the idea of it is that you need to build a structure that can stand. You need to build a structure that has, pivotal points. You need to build conveyor belts. So it becomes a puzzle just on how you start building your base. And you're just having it where you're shooting off like rockets of soup to different planets, which is hilarious. It's really simple. It's not too much to the game. And I think if you wanted to play like something that's a little puzzling and like put some music on in the background, that's a really good one.
Okay. I mean, honestly, you had me at soup.
Yeah.
But all those elements sound super fun. And,
Yeah.
and what it made me think of is I'm coming hard. I'm coming with 3. Yeah, I'm coming hard with 3.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Unpacking,
Okay.
moving out, and Overcooked are all very similar games in that vein.
Yeah.
Like if you are looking for fun stress, and I'm gonna be very specific, fun stress. I think Overcooked and Moving Out really fit those elements because
Overcooked for sure.
2 people. Well, Moving Out is like Overcooked, but we're moving furniture. So it's like,
yeah.
grab the couch, and we have to grab the couch, and we have to move it together, and the table's glass, so you have to pick it up, and it's like, it is that same stress in a different way. Whereas Overcooked, you're like, stop talking to me and chop up the lettuce, because we need the lettuce, and it leads to that fever pitch of, hey, I want us to get the full amount of stars.
Yeah.
But it is strategic. You have to do it perfect.
Okay.
And you with me, we can yell and have a good time.
Right.
You with a kid, you can actually enjoy that game. You with your significant other who's maybe not a gamer, you can still have a good time. So I think that, Moving Out and Overcooked definitely fall in that category.
Okay.
I would say Unpacking is simply a put on in the background. You're trying to chill.
Okay.
But you want to play a game rather than do something else. It's 8-bit, and you're physically unpacking boxes. Now, why is it a puzzle? Because if you unpack the boxes and you pay attention, there's actually a storyline unraveling in the background of this game. To give you context, the very first one is you're young, and you're unpacking your room in a new house. Then it's you packing up your room to go to college. Then you go to college and you unpack. Then you get a significant other.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pack up and you move in together. And you get married. And then you pack up and you move out of that house and your life changes. And as you're paying attention to the background, there is a storyline playing.
Yeah.
You'll get that story. You could play the game and just unpack and you wouldn't get that storyline. You'd love it just the same. I will tell you, that is one of those simplistic, like, put on the background, very satisfying, but definitely has elements of simplistic puzzle elements. Super fun.
That's really nice.
So, unpacking, chill, put on in the background, play, pay a little attention, it's good. Overcooked and Moving Out, they are intense, but they are so fun. And they are really ones that you will get competitive. But I love it.
It's good fun. It's good stress. But yeah, I would say there is one more quick mention. Since we were talking about Guitar Hero, if this still feels like too much, I'm actually playing a game called Amplitude. And potentially it's the same concept. There's only 3 strings, but you jump around to each instrument. So let's say for a moment I'm playing the bass, right? If I get that whole string of chord correct, then that chord disappears. Then I can jump over to another. I can jump over to vocals, and I could hit all the notes for vocals. This one felt to me, using a controller, a little bit more inviting if you don't want to necessarily get a like instrument and play directly, and you wanted something like with playing with a console.
No, I can imagine it. I've not seen it, but Final Fantasy, the newer game, has a piano instrument that you have to play where you use the analog sticks to play. And you'd think that it wouldn't work. It actually makes a lot of sense and like feels difficult. But rewarding. Like it feels natural. Like if you played it a little bit, you'd pick it up, kind of in the sense of I don't play guitar, but I'm pretty good at Guitar Hero, right? Like you get the rhythm. Same thing. So I could definitely appreciate that element of, what's it called? Amplitude?
Yeah, Amplitude.
Amplitude. Never heard of it. I definitely had to check it out. So that will wrap up our puzzle podcast. Thank you for joining us. If you have any puzzle games that you want us to check out, please reach out to us on thelegendofgamingpodcast.com or on our socials at The Legend of Gaming Podcast on RSS, Amazon Music, X, IG, all the socials. But until next time, this is Matt.
And you got Cliff.
And we'll talk to you later.
Peace.
Peace.